Hi everyone. Today I'm going to join in the year-end ritual and look back on the year of 2021 of kind of 10 best lists that are prevalent. But I'm going to, contrarian that I be, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give my top 20 performances favorite performances of the Blu-rays that I watched in 2021 and that I did a individual discussion of. I did something like 130, I think, maybe a little bit more than that throughout the year. So I have a lot to choose from, and I'm going to get started. I'm not going to dwell on any of these too much, but again, they're going to be somewhat whimsical, somewhat offbeat. A couple of them are going to be the towering kind of performance. So let's get with the first two are kind of whimsical. The best performance by a dog in a movie in 2021. This would be Pard in High Sierra, played by Zero the dog, and he was up against some stiff competition in Asta was in Bringing Up Baby. Asta barks too much. I love dogs, but Asta barks too much. I don't like barking dogs. And Pard, not in the film too much, but there is a great scene where Ida Lupino, Humphrey Bogart are driving off and to leave Pard behind forever. And Pard runs down this dusty country road, and they take pity and they bring him along with them, and conveying very much the kind of relationship that dogs can have with human beings. Pard was played by Zero the dog, Humphrey Bogart's own dog, personal dog, and in IMDb actually has another credit from the same year. So maybe Bogart had the dog with him one day, and another production that needed a dog, so Zero got another opportunity. And then the best performance by a baby, and I think maybe the best performance by a baby ever in a movie. And this is in Rawhide, a Western. And if you've ever seen this movie, you know exactly what I mean, because this is not just a baby, but a baby in a cute baby. This is a baby in peril, and it's really horrifying. And you really see the terror. This baby really shows the terror. And hopefully her parents were there on set, and she wasn't really in danger, but she was played by Judi Dunn. Judi Dunn's about the same age as me, and I wish I could show my grandchildren, this is what I was like as a baby. This is the high point of my acting career, because Judi Dunn never appeared in another film. Now let's get away from the whimsical and go to the towering, and one of the great performances that I saw, the greatest probably, and one of the greatest of all time, and that's Tetsuya Nakadai in The Human Condition, a 9-hour movie in which Nakadai is so fantastic. I mean, it's such an unforgettable, powerful performance. It was, I think, only his second major role. This was directed by Masaki Kobayashi. He had come to fore in Black River, a previous film, and then he was only like 24, 25, I think, when he made this film, and it covers the war years and how to try to remain a human being in a nationalistic, militaristic environment that just thrived on male cruelty. Nakadai, fantastic performance. Now, a couple of combo movies, the first being Three Brothers, and this is a Francesco Rossi movie, and it's a grandfather-granddaughter combo that I want to highlight here. Charles Bonnell, one of the great actors in movie history. He's in his 80s here. His wife has died. One of his sons comes back with his, 10, 12-year-old daughter, and she's played by Marta Zaffel, I think it's Zaffoli, Marta Zaffoli, and they make that connection, that kind of connection that brings two generations together of such enormous change, and Rossi's great at using this young girl to highlight that connection. And there's a shot where they watch Charles Bonnell's wife about to go off to her burial, and they hold hands together. A dog runs around, another great performance by a dog. A dog runs in circles around them. It's just a really touching moment, and attests to what kind of a relationship a grandfather can have with his granddaughter, his grandchildren. I can verify that, because it's one of the great experiences. When you get old, it's good to have a grandchild around to reinvigorate you, if nothing else. And then there is the combination of Selena and Julie go boating, and that's Julie Berto and Dominique Lopezine. They express the joy of life about as good as any pair ever could. They express their friendship for one another because they were friends off screen. They contributed very much to the dialogue that they give in this movie. It's a one-of-a-kind movie, and that really can only express that particular moment in time. And Berto and Lopezine are just fascinating, and I just love spending the 3-hour running time with those two actors. Now, a couple of really great comic performances that I watched this year. It Happened One Night. Claudette Colbert, I did a whole series on Claudette Colbert. She is just one of the great comic actors of all time, certainly of the era that she was in, where she made many comedy movies, many of them released this year by Kino Lorber. This, of course, is the Frank Capra classic. I love the way she stands up to Clark Gable here. She outdoes him. The irony is that she didn't really want to make the film. She did want to work with Clark Gable, but she insisted on 30-day shoot. It had to be done in a month. She thought that the movie was silly and foolish, and she won the Academy Award. And Colbert was a real revelation. I always liked her, but going through her filmography of her comedies, she is just a superb performer. And this is the other comic performance that I want to highlight is Jimmy Cagney in 1, 2, 3. Billy Wilder's follow-up to The Apartment, and very much a commercial failure in its time. And the first time I saw 1, 2, 3, I was like, Cagney is so over the top. He's overbearing. There's just too much dialogue. But as the years go by, I've come to appreciate Cagney's performance here. I don't know how he did it. It's just, there's nothing like it in cinema. There's one scene where he has this long monologue that it's just full of words that he performs in like a submachine gun. And Wilder had him do many takes of it. And in the supplements, you learn that when this film is shown in theaters nowadays, in repertory or film festivals, the audience claps at that particular performance. And by the time, now that I've seen it many, many times, 1, 2, 3, I just love this film. When the film was over, I even alone in my apartment, I have to give a round of applause to Jimmy Cagney. Okay, the next up is in the nomenclature of the 1960s, 60s chicks. And these are three movies that feature actresses that were about the same age as me and that I was very fond of. And the first is Mimsy Farmer in The Road to Selena. And she had made, she was actually in some American hot rod movies, and then she went to Europe. She was in a film called More, where she plays a drug addict. But I like her and then she would go on to play Giallos and live in Italy, and probably more famous for that. But here she has a really good role. It's a very mysterious role, and she captures the free-wheeling style of the late 60s and the early 70s, and she's gorgeous to look at. Maybe not the world's greatest actress, but boy, she would have had a relationship with the camera, and very effective in The Road to Selena. Next up is Lopezine, and of course that's Romy Schneider, Alan Delon on the cover, and would they be my favorite performance? But I really want to highlight the performance by Jane Birkin in this film. And again, like Mimsy Farmer, she is sort of an emblem of the kind of 60s chick, the hippie, the freewheeling, that anything goes, take it easy, don't get too upset. But she's also, in the context of this film, she is the one who really amplifies the jealousy that is the theme of this film. And in the supplements, Mimsy Farmer in a contemporary interview says when she looks back at this film, she says, "Good gosh, I was just the ultimate London girl, the late teenage girl." In Lopezine, and of course she's photographed beautifully, as all the actors are. And the next one is I Start Counting, and that's Jenny Agather on the cover there. This is just a great performance, and Jenny Agather is probably most well known, I suppose, for Walkabout, where she's mostly photographed by Nicholas Roeg, although she's really good in it. And then she was in The Railway Children, which was part more or less as a children's kind of story. This is a grown-up story, but she gives one of the great portrayals of adolescence I've ever seen in the movies, and a great moment where a loss of innocence kind of moment. She has a kind of fairy tale infatuation with her older stepbrother, and she has a moment where this fairy tale infatuation dissolves in an instant when she learns about the treachery of adult life. And next up is a bunch of movies with actresses that probably are kind of underappreciated, and I wouldn't even say they're great performances, but they are haunting performances. There's something about them that was very unexpected. The first up is Dorothy Lamour in Disputed Passage, that is her on the cover, and with Akeem Tamiroff, John Howard, a Frank Borzage movie, part of the Borzage series that I did this year. She'd only really come to prominence, I think, a year earlier with Hurricane. Borzage had some had some commercial failures preceding Disputed Passage, so he couldn't demand the A-list stars, and Dorothy Lamour certainly was neither an experienced actress and probably not the most talented actress, but Borzage knew how to use her, and by the end of the film, which is one of Borzage's greatest endings, the transcendence of love, the spirituality that exists in life, Borzage's style. He really uses her to express that. And Dorothy Lamour, this is much before the Road to movies that she's most famous for with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. And next up is the Quota Memorandum. I want to spotlight Senta Berger in this movie. Senta Berger, as all the actors in the Quota Memorandum, really caught the cadences, the style of Harold Pinter's dialogue, and she has some scenes with George Segal here that are just pure Pinter. She is just ethereally beautiful, and the ending of this film, her expression, it's somewhat ambiguous, and then it turns to, well, maybe it's not ambiguous after all, where we see sort of the rise of fascism, or the re-rise, and how it'll never go away. And Berger really expresses sort of like a kind of betrayal, but you're not, as in all Pinter movies, you're not really sure. And she's just, Senta Berger in the 1960s was absolutely beautiful actress. Next up would probably be my most controversial choice of favorite performances, and that would be Martine Carreau and Lola Montez. First time I saw Lola Montez, I thought, who is this actress? She's terrible. And she was forced on Max Ophuls by the producers as the budget of this movie went skyward, because Martine Carreau was a very popular actress in French sex comedies. But what's really strange as you watch this movie and you learn about the real Lola Montez, Martine Carreau really becomes Lola Montez, who was a second-rate dancer, and I guess most critics would regard Martine Carreau as a second-rate actress. But it's a haunting, by the end of the film, the final shot of the film, which is just absolutely stupendous tracking shot, she really does become, I don't even know how to describe her. When I think Lola Montez, I think Martine Carreau. And again, this is another performance that it took time for me to really appreciate, and really appreciate what Ophuls and was able to do with Martine Carreau, who did not think much of herself as an actress and thought she was miscast, but she gave her best. And I think it's one of the most emblematic performances in Max Ophuls' career. And then this is, I can't pass by a Gail Russell performance because I saw quite a few others in 2021. This is The Uninvited. And again, Gail Russell had a kind of presence that was really, really powerful in movies. It's a quiet, kind of dream-like presence, and really fits The Uninvited perfectly here. And she was so beautiful, and you know, she was so full of anxieties, and they had to often tie her hands together because her hands would shake and begin to shake her body, and she would have to be coaxed onto the set. And you would never know it in the movie because she just fits this role perfectly. It's a very kind of melancholy role that her really sad, large sad eyes really, the camera really caught all that sadness in her performance of The Uninvited. And then we go to some major performances, I think. This is Davy, and this performance here is by Sharmila Tagore, who plays Davy. Great cover, that's her on the cover as a young 16-year-old daughter-in-law to a man who believes that she is who comes to believe he's infatuated with her, and he comes to believe that she is the reincarnation of the goddess that he has been worshiping all his life. And Tagore is really amazing in this movie. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but she catches the fear and the confusion. Maybe I am the reincarnation of the goddess when her husband tries to take her away. We might be doing something wrong. It's a great illustration of the power of the male ego when it goes a little bit berserk, and the consequences that women often have to pay for that. And then we have Nick Nolte in Full Stop the Rain. This is, I think, my favorite Nick Nolte performance, and I liked it even better this time, of the loyal friend, the American ingenuity, the kind of fatalistic romanticism that he's trying to save his best friend, and he needs to save his best friend's wife, played by Tuesday Weld, who he falls in love with along the way. But it's just, Nolte was at the prime of his good looks, and he was in great shape, and great shootout in this movie, and Nolte is absolutely mesmerizing. There's a lot of good Nick Nolte performances out there, but this is probably my favorite. The next is probably maybe a little bit surprising, and this is Brigitte Bardot in La Vérité. Perhaps her most serious role, I don't know. It's kind of, she gets to play the sex kitten. She gets to play some really challenging moments on the witness stand as she's on trial for murder. She's absolutely gorgeous in this film, and Henry George Clouzot really brings out, she's probably not known as much of an actress, and I love her in Jean-Luc Godard's Contempt as well, but here she gets a real full-fledged opportunity to be a serious actress, and I think she comes through with flying colors in this movie. Next up is Nino Manfredi in The Executioner, and this was part of this is the only film directed by Luis Garcia Berlanga that's available in Region 1, and maybe there's in Spain there are Blu-rays available, but all his movies play on the Criterion Channel, or not all of them, but about 11 or 12 of them, and they're fantastic. And there's great performances all through it, but I wanted to highlight Nino Manfredi, an Italian actor playing in a Spanish movie, but he is just amazing how he has to transition into, he doesn't want to become an executioner, but the people around him and fate itself just conspires to make him an executioner, and he's just brilliant comically, and a man who's just lost to his own personal fate, destiny, that he does not actually want. And the next is a performance I don't even know how to describe. It's Gian Maria Volante in Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion. Volante was a great overactor. He was a great underplayer. This isn't his, when people who might not like him might say overacting, but he goes over the top, and nobody could do it as well as Volante can. And this again is sort of, we get the male ego gone berserk, and the fascistic and tendencies that can come about with that. And Volante is just, from beginning to end, it's a performance that just absolutely stuns me. And every time, I've seen it quite a few times now, but this is, well, my Blu-rays just fell off the chair, if you hear that sound in the background. But again, Volante, one of the great performances of Francesco Aurelio Petri film. He made some really classic films in this period, and I think this is probably his best one. So I'm going to end, I only got one left. I'm going to end with a really funny performance of a movie that I just watched a couple weeks ago, and this is Rancho Deluxe. Jeff Bridges, Sam Waterston in it, but this has an absolutely great comic performance in a supporting role by Slim Pickens, who is a detective who has a reputation of always getting his man, but when he arrives on the scene, he's so broken down, can barely walk. He has to rely on his niece to help him along. He tells great, crazy stories about the dreams he has. He looks totally incompetent, and then there is the change. And Slim Pickens, absolutely delightful in this, in Rancho Deluxe. Okay, so that's my top 20. I could have done a lot more, but the length is getting too long. But I'd love to hear if any of your favorite performances in the movies you watched in 2021. Happy New Year! I'm doing this on New Year's Eve, so Happy New Year to everybody. And I've got one more wrap-up video, I think, that I'm going to try to get online maybe later today or early tomorrow morning. Okay, you guys take care.